There's a little red ship on the wild Arctic seas, where the wind blows so cold you can feel your blood freeze. But up on deck 5 you hear the sound of guitars. Up in the polar bear, bonjour and hola there. Up in the polar bear bar, way up in the polar bear bar. Here comes Susan 80, she runs a tight show. She gets into the Malbec and anything goes. And Guy Esperon with his head in a jar, he drinks in the polar bear, bonjour and hola there. Up in the polar bear bar, way up in the polar bear bar. Now old Scobie Pye, he never gets out. He's working on engines day in and day out. But under the bell every night he's a star. He holds court in the polar bear, bonjour and hola there. Up in the polar bear bar, way up in the polar bear bar. There's big Philip Hunter, as chill as they come. He's smooth in a kayak and cool with a gun. But out on the dance floor he's fit to be tarred. He gets down in the polar bear, bonjour and hola there. Up in the polar bear bar, way up in the polar bear bar. Here comes Mr. Morgan, we don't know what he's on, but he can dance the merengue from dusk until dawn. His interest in knickers is somewhat bizarre, and he peeps in the polar bear, bonjour and hola there. Up in the polar bear bar, way up in the polar bear bar. There's no greater hunter than Mario Spring. When he gets on a scent he can track anything. Brunettes and redheads, they don't get very far when he hunts in the polar bear, bonjour and hola there. Up in the polar bear bar, way up in the polar bear bar. These 3 pretty fraulein, so sweet and so dear, they can tear up the town when they get on the beer. From Oslo to Svalbard they shout wunderbar. Sie trinken in their polar bear, bonjour and hola there. Up in the polar bear bar, way up in the polar bear bar. Now there's many fine companies that sail the salt seas, Noble Caledonia and Old Silver Seas, Big Hurdy-Guruten and don't forget Quark. But they don't have a polar bear, bonjour and hola there. Don't have a polar bear bar, no they don't have a polar bear bar. Tomorrow it's over, it's the end of the cruise, the disembarkation and luggage pull blues. So come all you big drinkers, let's say au revoir. We'll meet in the polar bear, bonjour and hola there. Up in the polar bear bar, we'll get lit in the polar